Chapter 5, Operation Maintenance of the Diesel Electric Locomotive. Chapter 5, Engine and Lubrication System. Three general mineral oil from the petroleum bases are used in the most internal combustion engines for the lubrication purposes. Lubrication oils are graded according to their viscosity. A series of the Society of Automotive Engineers, the ASAE, members of the U.S. Army, to standardize the engine oil on three grades, the ASE 10 and ASA 30 and ASA 50. The higher the ASAE number, the more viscosity heavy oil. This is method of classifying the oils with a non-connection with the quality of the oil. The engine lubrication have the four functions in the preventing the metal contact and the moving of the mechanism, reducing the friction of the existing, carrying the heat away from the engine, and to clean the engine parts as they are lubricated, to form a seal between the piston rings and cylinder walls to prevent blow-by combustion gases. Lubrication supplies that all the lubricating, the moving the parts of the engine, and the engine-driven pod draws oil from the engine bases that circulates in through the series of filter strainers into the engine and lubrication oil header. The lubrication and individual assembly directed to under separate the heading of the paragraph 14. A bayonet gauge is provided to the bare engine of the check of the oil level. The filtering hole of the pipe is generally provided near the gauge. The additional makeup of the whole oil, the hand holes of the engine should be opened when the engine is running. The relief valve, the pressure regulating valve are installed in appropriate places in the piping to protect the pump. Oil oil cooler, similar accessories setting of the valves vary from the normal oil pressure of the various parts of the different system. 24 properties of lubrication oil. Generally, crude oil is distilled in the obtaining lighter violet products such as gasoline, kerosene. Lubricating oil, the products of the heavy portions from the undesirable products such as wax, tar, and impurities are removed. The following factors are significant in classifying the various types of grades of lubrication oil. B, viscosity. See the paragraph 16b for the definition. Viscosity changes the determinate temperature which causes the oil to thin. As the temperature increases, the viscosity of an unacceptable oil should be checked within a viscosity gauge. Intervals where the oil is used. Dilution from the fuel oil leaking in the past of the piston rings may result in the case excessive carbon deposits and insufficient lubrication for vulnerable parts. The viscosity is the important indication of the oil's ability to function effectively as the engine lubricates. Darn, I lost my page. Too far. Still, I'm sorry about this. Got ahead of myself. I pushed up instead of down or whatever. Alright, chapter 5, pure. The pour point is determined by the temperature at which the oil barrel flows in the important cold weather operation being concealed with the the oil congealed oil has no lubricating valve, offers excessive resistance to motion. Flash point is the temperature at which the oil vapor above the oil was igniting and exposed to the flame. Although the flash point gives the indication of the oil volatility, it has little to do with it. The oil lubrication valve is used to primarily determine the safety factor of the storing oil. Carbon residuals. Carbon deposits are formed with the residual left after the volatile matter. The oil that evaporated should be kept in the minimum because of the accumulation of the carbon causes the leaky, sticky valves and rings and may be scored cylinder liners. Oxidation. Every effort is made when the oil is refined to remove the materials having tendency of the oxidation. Deposits of the oxidation objectionable for the same reason are given in the above, and lubrication must be oxidation and subject to the flame of combustion. Here's another picture, turn this clockwise. Alright, this is the diagram of the typical load of the engine starting from the water pump. Water is on the bottom. The check type relief valve is in between the oil filters, the water radiator shut control through, and then through an endpoint. One water pump from the oil filters, it goes into one goes into a Cuno strainer or the drain or into the pump, the relief valve of the engine where the supercharger of the oil, the supercharger of the bearings through the engine and the filling holes in the pipe of the bearings, lube oil headers, and is and from the engine it goes to the governor shutdown solenoid or back out through the Cuno strainer From the Kuno strainer to the pressure switch, which is the pressure gauge, and with the pressure switch to 2 wires, which go inside the engine to the governor shutdown solenoid and the fuel pump button and the positive wire and the negative wire. Emulsions. Oil of the crankcase engine will become emulsified by the mix of the water condition comes with through the exhaust cages, as which would always contain the water reaching the crankcase and leaking the head of the gasket and damage the cylinder, blocks the excessive condensation, etc. Oil should be checked frequently and drained at regular intervals. H. Sulfur. Excessive sulfur may cause chemical reactions which promote corrosion, increase friction, and resistance to the wearing of the parts. 25. Perfect purification of oil. Generally, oil does not wear an oil out because it is contaminated soon after it is used within an engine. However, the lubrication properties are still effective and the temperatures are removed. This is often done to the gravity seating and passing the oil through the filter beds and central fusing oil. The filter beds and central fusing oil with the oil in a rotatory separator, which operation is based on the relatively specific gravity of the oil and impurities. Proper maintenance can be assisted in preventing the contamination of the engine interior. The cylinder heads, air brakes, the crankcase should be cleaned while oil is changed at the location readily accessible. When the oil is changed without the first remedy of the fault contamination responsible for the contamination oil, the same results may be expected to recur immediately after the change of the condition of the oil and the contents indicated. The many troubles of the testing samples removed from the sample system and remedial measures must be taken when the result of the test is revealed. When all the items of the test may be frequently intervals with a fully correlated with the record of the should extend the fuel dilution of the suit, water, where the cylinder sleeves, the liners, oil, there other parts, oxidation, oil, the filter set, strainers, dirts, and the very damaging element of the engine cleanliness, and the oil is direct bearing on the life and serving of the engine. Even when the oil is supplied with the ideal condition of the carbon deposits, sludge, and tar, gum may form should they be removed from the filters and strainers. 1. Filters consist of the casing containing removal of elements, and the cartridges of the elements are generally a metal cage package with waste and similar loose of the fibers of the elements should be renewed and often even enough to keep the oil clean. The interior of the casing of the clean at the same time. The elements of the type of which can be replaced and repacked and returned to the shop for new packing. The elements that can be packed and repacked by maintenance personnel. 2. The strainers consist of the very arrangement of the metal straining elements. The scraping of the element is contact with the straining of the elements provided with the frequent removal of the accumulated deposits. Handled the exposed to the casing of the end should be turned regularly for the purpose of turning in one direction only when specifically specified. For the foreign matter that is scraped in the drop at the bottom of the case, if the strainer is removed for the cleaning of when the oil is changed, the other suitable intervals, specifically direction of the dismantling and the replacement of the suitable and cleaning solutions appear in the various manufacturer bulletins. Strainers may be given the good indication of the condition of the main and the connecting rod and bearings, since the trap of the metallic particles wear through the before the reach of the pump. 26. Lubricating oil pump. Lubricating oil pumps are driven for the engine means that the gear train of some of the oil pumps, the 2 pumps, one of the scavenging side system and the other for the engine. The pressure lubrication, the helical pumping is typical of these type of the general use of the pump consists of the pumping element, helical gear of type, the use of the bronze casing assembly made in the 2 sections. The casing section are joined together in the metal to metal fittings that are part of the held in assembly and the stud and the ream of the bolts. These the outermost section of the pump is provided with the flange, meaning the which of the pump assembly for the secured driven casing of the upper end of the pump driving shaft, machine engine spline coupling that connects in the pump and the shaft, vertical drive assembly with the pump capacity, the actual requirements of the sulfurous discharge sump through the bolt-in spring loaded relief valve at 75 psi. Component parts of lubrication oil are shown in figure 22. Here you see a picture of a lubricating oil filter. It starts out with the shock spring, with the shell cover the shock spring, cover the gasket, swing bolt and nuts, hold the spring shock and the shell cover over the gasket, cage gasket, the hinge pin for the shell cover, the wing nut on top of the covering the gasket, the shell, the cylinder, and the basket assembly, the cover, and a strainer pool with an outlet and an inlet and outlet drain plug. Lubrication oil cooler. High engine temperatures encountered with the lubrication oil varies engine passage, especially pistons necessary to the cool and circulating through the radiators and coolers. Oils may be circulated with the radiator adjacent to similar to the radiator core or the engine cooling system. Any type of the cooler consists of a heating exchange, also known as the lubricating of the lube oil cooler. Though both water and the oil circulator, the heat is transferred from the oil to the water through the large number of thin walls designed to carry out the flow of the fluids to close to each other and general necessary to clean the oil side of the cooler must be frequently with the water side. 28. The oil accessories and oil system. The gauges, pressure gauge, which whether the normal oil pressure is in the beginning with the maintaining the engine lubrication system and the turbocharger where installed. The gauges should be observed frequently, and any variation normal readings should be investigated. The deviations of the oil pressure may be due to low fuel dilution, leaks, lines, contaction, faulty pump, clogged filters and strainers, clogged coolers, defective relief valves, and improper viscosity valves. Relief valves are provided with a bypass filler and cooler deposits the retarded flow of the oil so that the pump builds up excessive line pressure by the pass of the valve at a reasonable pressure above the normal pressure drop, and the equipment that protects the system will leave the valve outlet pump instead of the considerable high pressure in the permits the oil pressure to return to the pump, and restricted flow builds up the sufficient pressure to the trip of the valve. See the oil pressure protection. Oil pressure that may be maintained, but the engine is running the oil pressure damage is dangerous. Low and switch the mounted with the oil line to cause over the engine shutdown of the engine for the engine idling circuit. The engine is hydraulic governor, or the pneumatic hydraulic governor has the low protection incorporated with the shutdown circuit of the governor. With the other type of the governor, separated magnet valve sounds as an alarm shows the warning of the light, and the oil pressure depends on several conditions such as the engine temperature and its such speed. In addition to the listed above, no fixed operation procedures can be tabulated. The pressure should be building up properly. Engine is started and the engine is very cold. The pressure may be exceedingly set by the relief valve, the light lubricating oil with the congealing during the cold weather shutdown of the lengthy period of time. These are lubricating oil pictures. Back out one. Here you have a lubricating oil pump. At the top, it shows the thrust washer, the pump, the spine, the bushing, the weir, ideal plates, the ideal shaft, screw drop, dowel plate, ideal gear and casing, the face plate, the thrusting clearance, the thrust cap, the gasket, the drive gear, the hole for the eye bolt, and the key. This shows on the bottom. It shows the pump basing, the pump casing, the bushing, wear plate, splines, spleen, drive shaft, drive gear, idle gear, wear plate, pushing, face plate, thrust cap, and face plate nuts. Here's a picture of a lube oil pressure switch. It shows the switch as a snap switch, retaining screw, electrical connection, terminal, snap switch, assembly, range adjusting knob, differential adjusting knob, brain setting indicator, differential setting indication, calibrated range differential scales, and cover pressure connections of the IP 1/4 IPS. Chapter 6, Engine Cooling Water System.